Hey guys, my name is Rory with New Craft Metal Products. We manufacture the Craftlander boat lifts. And today we're going to do an assembly video on the 6,000 vertical cable hydraulic, but this is a high lift. And what I mean by that is instead of our standard 60 inches of travel, it's going to have 84 inches of travel. This is great for the Great Lakes or very deep water that you might be in. Other than that, it's just like the rest of them, it just goes 2 feet higher. I want to start out with what you're actually going to get in the package. Right here, what I have is all the aluminum components when you take delivery on this lift. You may or may not be building it yourself, but if you are, this will be helpful. Starting off here in the front, this is what we have, the hydraulic winch tube. The cylinder is inside of this tube right here. This is all pre-strung, primed up, ready to go. All you got to do is hook the lines up to it once it's bolted onto the lift, and it's ready to be operational. Next, you're going to have what we call the package right here. This is going to include all your corner columns, your lower framework of the boat lift, your diagonal braces, everything like that. That's going to be banded together here. Foot pads are in there, the whole nine. Behind that, what we have here in this next pile here is your front to back cradle tubes of the carriage. There's 2 of those pieces. There is no cables in those are empty. And then lastly here on the back, we have the 2 I-beams. These are the side-to-side members of your carriage. And on these black plastic plates, these are keel guard protectors is what they're called. That'll be labeled exactly what they are. Jumping over here. All this stuff that I have right here on the table, this is going to come in the hardware box when you take delivery on the lift. Right here, in this strip of parts right here, these are the hardware for the frame of the boat lift. That's going to be in one bag together. It's going to have all these smaller bags inside of that. Next right here, this is going to be the carriage bag. That's only for the carriage of the boat lift, including the plastic caps that go on when you're all done. Moving down here, you're going to have 2 bags that look like this. What I did here is I opened up one of the bags so you know what they are. They're plates that look like this. These are for the diagonal braces. These work as fish plates, kind of clamping the tube together. You'll learn exactly where these go later on in the video. Next, you're going to have 4 of these guide plates. These are going on the carriage corners, all 4 of them. Again, every corner. Next, right here, you're going to have your foot pad brackets. They look like so. 4 of those. And then lastly, these are your tubing stabilizers on the corner of the boat lift. These are the plates that attach them at the bottom. You'll see where these go later on in the video. Again, that's all going to be in one hardware box. Moving over here, what I have here, these 3 boxes left. The big one here is going to be your hydraulic pump box. You're going to have your solar panel itself. And you're going to have the hardware box with the mast and the mounting hardware to mount the solar panel. That's everything you'll need to build the boat lift. Alright guys, the first main step in assembly of this boat lift. What we have here, we've got all 4 columns up on the sawhorses here. I've already put together those 3. So this one that I'm about to show you, those are just going to be a repeat of what we're going to do here. During packaging, one of the things you're going to find, you're going to have a bolt in here inside of the column. And you're going to have, this is one of the tubing stabilizers. Just for packaging, it's going to be inside the tube. So you can take this out, set it aside for now. And then the other end of the column, you're going to find a couple of these in the package. Same thing down here. But on this end, it's going to be one of the leg tubes. So you can pull that right out, get it out of your way for now. Set it up here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start down here on this end. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is going to be to put the foot pad and leg tube on this. Before we get to that point, what I want to point out, something that's going to really help you later on in the video, is these clamps that are right here. This one right here, you see this is in the shape of an L. We call that an L clamp. And this one right here is in the shape of a T. We call that a T clamp. So what that is, the L clamps are always going to point towards the outside of the lift, making the hoist wider to give room for your boat. The T clamps are going to be the front and the back. So as you're standing this up, keep that note in mind on column placement where they go. Again, the L clamps are going to be to get the hoist wider, the lower frame. And the T clamps are going to be the side-to-side tubes. That's where they go on. First things first, what I like to do, take one of the leg tubes you're going to have right here. This hole on the bottom, the only hole on this side, that's going to be for your foot pad bracket. Your foot pad's going to go on there. This side right here is going to be your adjustment to raise and lower the length of the leg and the foot pad. So you want to stick that up, make sure these holes are aligned with the pre-milled hole that's in the column at the base. So you're going to slide that in. Now I'm going to leave a few holes exposed right here. That's for just for building purposes. It leaves you room to get wrenches and impact driver down below there. Later on in the build, you're going to want to lower those all the way, or bring those all the way up just in case you're in shallow water. Obviously that would cost you draft. Second step is going to be to take one of the stainless leg pins. This is going to be in the frame bag. It's going to look like this, and it also has a cotter key that looks like this. This pin right here, you're always going to want to go through here in this direction. You do not, again, want to go this way. Because what will happen there, if you put this in, yes, it will work. But in the event later on when the hoist is all built and you have to do a leg adjustment, there's going to be a piece of aluminum and steel plate here that will prevent you from getting this out. So you're going to have to take some things back apart to adjust the leg later on if you don't put it through this way. Make sure it's through that way. Once that's through, put your cotter key on, just like so. Next up, you're going to grab one of the foot pads. This foot pad was located in the package with all the columns. And then you're going to grab one of the 4 leg pad brackets, look like so. This, you'll see the holes are already cut into the plate. There's already holes on this. This is simply going to set on here like so. And what you're going to do, out of the bolt bag, you're going to have 2 3/8 by 3/4 inch long carriage bolts, okay? These are going to go up from the bottom, through the foot pad, into the leg bracket. Get the nut on there like so. The other one here, on the other side. Put those on like so. At this point, you can go ahead and tighten up those 2 bolts, get them good and snug. Next, you're going to have a 5/8 by 3.5 hex bolt and a stainless nut for that. What this is for right here, it's going to be attaching the foot pad to the leg of the column. So what you want to do, hold the bracket up on here, insert the bolt through the leg tube in the foot pad bracket. Got 4 walls of material you're getting to line up here, so you got to get it straight. And then you can go ahead and put the nut on. Once that's done, you can go ahead and snug up all these bolts that we just put in, and then repeat this step 3 more times on these ones. Like I said, I jumped ahead and I got these 3 done, but you are going to be repeating exactly what we did there. And you're going to have 4 columns ready to go out. Alright guys, just to recap, what we did is we put the foot pads and the leg tubes in all 4 columns. What I did here is I kind of laid out the way that we choose to do it, probably the easiest way for it to go together. So what I have here is I have the hydraulic winch tube right here. Now you can't see it in the video right now, but on the bottom side of this there's a piece of angle. You want to make sure that that points down, so that's going to be on the outside of your lift. That's what the hydraulic pump mounts onto. So you never want to have this spun around to where that's on the inside of the lift. It'll cause you room for width under, and your boat potentially could hit it. And the hoist is not going to work properly. So again, the angle that's on here, make sure that's pointing down. So what I have here is I have the 2 winch side columns here. The way to tell these apart from the rest is what I have here, the blocks that are down on that end, they look like that. There's only 2 of these that look like this in the package. Okay, that's what's going to insert at the end of that winch tube. And on this end, they're all going to look the same outside of the placement of the L and T clamps. Now again, this one being the L, that one being the T. So when I rotate this the way it needs to be, this tube right here, this is what we call a lower side panel. That's going to go on the L clamps, okay? This tube right here, it looks very similar to the spreaders, okay? The difference is these holes right here, and this whole sidewall, those are the only holes that you're going to see in this tube outside of the ones on top here, okay? The way to tell the spreaders apart, you can probably see here, they still have the holes in the top, but they're going to have the pattern of 4 holes in the face of it on both ends. Again, these will be the spreaders, those will be the lower side panels. So these 2 corner columns are opposite of each other, but the same, if that makes sense. So from there, what we're going to do next is just slide all this together, and then we're going to take and stand this up. On top here, a couple things to point out. The bolts that you use in these winch tube here, these are 1/2 by 4.5. You want to go from the inside of the hoist out, so that's why they're going down here. You can go ahead and put the nuts on, finger tight for now. There's 2 of those on both ends. Once you do that, you can put the lower side panel on here. And what I did here is I put one of the 3/8 by 7 that's in the frame bolt bag. You put it through there. All that's going to do, you don't have to put nuts on it yet, that's just going to hold it in place. Now keep in mind, without any nuts on there, They could wiggle out. The chances of it happening are pretty slim, but just be careful, keep that in mind. And again, what we're going to do now, because of the weight of this tube, we're going to get a helper to do this like I'm going to have today. And what we do is we stand this right up. Okay, but before we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take the spreaders. Going to grab one of these spreaders here. Again, pay attention to the hole pattern like I pointed out earlier in the video. So this is the best way to do it, is to take it, slide it onto the L clamp. Once you feel it go all the way down, you can take a bolt, stick it through there. It's just going to hold it from falling off. You know, the clamp is inside of there, it's just not going to go anywhere. Then you want to do the same thing on this other side. Like so. So this is what it should look like before you stand it up. And again, our practice is going to take it, stand it up, and let these come down to the ground. So what we're going to do now is make sure you have a helper. Don't hurt yourself trying to do this. What you want to do is get one person on each end. Go ahead and pick it up. Tilt it right down. So, until you get the other columns on, keep in mind, this is going to be past center right now. There is a chance if you're lifting up those to put the columns on that it could fall back down. Pay close attention to that. Keep a good hand on the tube there as you're putting the other columns on. So next what we'll do is we'll take one of the remaining columns. Right here. Now you stand the column up, and you can have your helper pick up on that tube. You're going to slide this T-clamp right inside the column, like so. Now once you get one in there, just to make sure the column stays on, grab another one of the 3/8 by 7 bolts and drop her in. Now, if you get a bolt like that that's not wanting to go in, it's not lined up, you stick the column and wiggle it, it'll fall right into place. We're going to do the same thing on this other corner. Take a bolt, put it right in there. Fell right in. Now lastly, we have the lower side panel here. You can grab it. Pick it up, you want to try to do one side at a time. So we're going to let him put his on. And take the other one, slide it into place, and then you can drop a bolt in there as well. There they go. Now this has to be squared up before the bolts will go in all the way. So my hole is partially blocked. I just had to put it back into square, and the bolts will fall right back in, like so. That is the step for building the frame, getting it standing up. Alright guys, now that we have everything stood up, the next step is, one thing I left out of the last part, when you're mounting on this hydraulic winch tube, down here on the bottom there is, normally this is it for display purposes, but there's an inspection cover that goes on there, but pay really close attention to the cables that are coming out on each end. Make sure they do not get pinched in there when you're putting this together. It will come on where this cable may be wedged all the way in the corner and it will pinch it. If you were to put it together that way and operate it, the hydraulic cylinder does not know it's pinched. It'll rip that cable in two. So make sure that it's free coming through that window that it's supposed to come through. Not only on this end, but the other end as well. Jumping on to the next step. So at the corner here, we already put 2 of the 3/8 by 7 bolts in. So now what you're going to do is you can drop the remaining 2 in. One's going to go there. The other one's going to go here. Drop that in there. Next, you're going to have 2 of the steel corner plates per corner. So there's going to be 8 of these total. Stack them up on the 6,000s and the 8,000s. We stack them like this. So these will only go on one way. You can see the centers here where they mount. It's a different hole pattern. It's going to match the hole patterns here. So what you're going to want to do, he's got a little bit of weight to him, so just kind of pinch them together, take them and slide them on bolts. Once you get it on the bolts, you can pull it towards you. It'll hold the bolt for you if you're by yourself. And then just start putting the nuts on the bottom. Once you get one nut on there snug, it'll hold itself like that. And then just get the other remaining 3 nuts on this corner. That's what it's going to look like there. So now next what you're going to want to do is locate your plates like we talked at the beginning of the video, which included in the parts box. You're going to see plates like this. This is for the stabilizer tubes. They look like so. Locate that plate. Locate 4 of these guys. You'll notice this has got a spacer on this end and not on the other end. The spacer is going to go to the bottom plate at all times. So we'll set this down here for now. First thing you're going to want to do, locate your 3/8 by 2 3/4 hex bolts. These are going to come from the inside of the hoist through to the outside. Get 2 of them in there. Grab your 1/2" carriage bolts, about like this. They're going to be in the bag. And then you're going to stick them through the back side of this plate, like so. That is machined to hold the head of the bolt from spinning. So what you're going to want to do, where this is machined out here, that's going to be the outside. So stick it right on there like so. The 2 bolts you did put in, go ahead and put your nuts on them. Take your remaining 2. Again, inside out. Next step is in your frame bag is you're going to grab 2 of the 1/2" stainless whiz nuts. Take your stabilizer tube, again, spacer on this tube. It's going to go right down here at the base. Slide it on like so. There's already a pre-installed carriage bolt inside of the column here. It's going to look like that. You're just going to take it, slide it on there. You might have to pull the column one way or the other to get it to line up. When it does line up, that means you're straight up and down. Get your nuts on there on each end. So you're going to repeat this step 3 more times. Now I went ahead and jumped ahead in the video. I have that corner done, and that corner. So all the other 4 corners are done. Okay. So the last part of the frame build that's going to leave us is going to be the diagonal braces. That's going to be over on this side of the lift. And when I say diagonal braces, it has 2 braces that come down like that, keeping the hoist kind of from doing this with the columns. You can see what a monster this is, how tall it is. So it needs additional support to have there. So what you want to do is you're going to grab one of the tubes that look like this. You can see a miter cut with 2 holes on one end, and the top end you're going to see a 1/2" hole right at the end. So you're going to want to put the miter in at the bottom. So get a ladder close for you. What I like to do is bring it up here. Set your tube on there. Slide it up into place like so. Put your 1/2" bolt right through. Again, being on a ladder, it's hard to see the other side. I'm going to move my ladder to where it can see all the way. Once you can see in there where you're lined up, you can go ahead and install the nut on there. So the top connection point is going to look like that. Once that part's done, you can move your ladder right out of the way. And the lower portion here. What we're going to have here, so you're going to have the plates that look like this, like so. There's going to be 3 holes in them. You're going to grab 3 of the 3/8 by 2 3/4. Stick them through like so. I usually go through this diagonal brace tube first. 1, 2, and then the third one, move it to where it needs to be. Put the bolt through, take 1 more of these plates, stick it on the outside, and then you can take and apply your 3 nuts. Once you have that part of it done, what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this step for the front end of the hoist. Alright guys, now that we got the second diagonal brace on, you have both of them on each side. The very last piece to the frame of this boat lift, you're going to find a tube that looks like so. It's going to be 2 holes in each end. It's a 2 inch by 3 inch tube. It's also miter cut. And you can notice on your diagonal braces here, one on each, those holes are what you're shooting for. You're going to take this with the miters, set it up close into place like so. Then you're going to grab the other 4 of these plates that look like this. Okay, we're going to attach this the same way that we did it down here, up top. So what you can do is, I like to stick one on each end through like this. Come through, get it lined up. Stick it through, get your third one. Go through the last hole there. And then take your second plate, before you put the nuts on, put it on the outside. And lastly, just going to put your nuts on here, finger tight. Grab the rest of your hardware, your other plates. Now we're going to repeat that step at the rear end of the hoist right here. And again, you may have to lift up on this tube as you're doing it to get everything to line up. Once you get it lined up, it's exactly where it needs to be. And put your final 3 nuts on here. All right, so that's the last piece on that side. That's the last piece of the frame build on this lift. So at this point, what you can do, what we recommend to do, you want to take your X dimensions. You're going to measure like this and like this. I'm not going to lay a tape on here today because depending on where you hold your tape measure at exactly, your measurements could vary from mine, and I don't want to give you a number you're looking for and you don't know where I measured from. As long as you can get the same, you measure in the same spots there and there, the same spots there and there, your measurements should be right on the money. Within a quarter inch is acceptable, but what that's going to do is going to square up the boat lift. Once that is done, you can go through and every piece of hardware that you've already put in, you can go ahead and tighten up and snug up before you move on to the carriage. I think I covered everything for the frame build. Next we're going to move on to the carriage. Alright guys, the next step, what I did is I took the I-beams and the front to back members of the carriage and set them into place. I have a couple of 4x4s, 4 of them on here, sitting on a diagonal that's holding the carriage up because our carriage on our boat lifts falls completely inside of the lower framework. So if you got something around the house, 2x4s, 4x4s, even the bunks that might come in your lift you can use for this. It's just a really helpful pointer to hold it up off the ground and make it easier to put together. The I-beams, when you set them on, keep in mind there is a long stud on this end that goes up here. This is the dock side of the boat lift. And on the opposing side, there will be a short stud that goes down, okay? It's that short. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. You have a black plastic guide plate. There's one of these on each corner. The column will ride in here. Cable goes in here. So you'll simply take this and you're going to set it into place right over the holes there. Anytime that you have a bolt going through plastic, you want to make sure that you put a washer on it. These washers are included with the bolts. These are 3/8 by 1.5 inches. So you're simply going to take this, make sure everything's lined up here, put it through the plastic right through. Going to get a total of 5 going through the plastic on this corner and the front one on this same side. Stick all those through and you can loosely put the nuts on right after you get them through. And again, having this carriage sitting up on the 4x4s like I have, it allows you to reach in there. Where I'm putting my fingers now would not be feasible if you built this with the carriage all the way down. Next, 3/8 by 1.25 inches. These are going to go in the areas that do not have the plastic. There's 1 here, 3 on the bottom side. Put that through there, like so. Let's get it finger tight, and then Lastly, what you have is these ones right down here on the bottom. Make sure things are lined up here. Get your bolt in, get your nuts on loosely. Now what I did is I went ahead and I jumped ahead and got the front end of this side of the carriage done already. As you can see up there, it is already all bolted together, ready for the cable to be hooked up. Now the hydraulic winch tube side, the non-dock side of the lift, the corners are a different assembly pattern. So, jumping over to this corner here, what we have here, this is where these blocks that are underneath the cables, that's where they're going to come into play. What you can do is have it all set. What I'll do is, if you come over here, we'll shoot the video from this side here. Firstly, you're just going to want to get your holes lined up close. You're going to have your guide plate here, just like we had for the other side. It's going to set on there like so. Okay? Now, you're also in the hardware bag going to have 2 of these pipe spacers. They are different lengths, make note of that. One of them is going to go right here, the other one's going to go right there. Okay? You're also going to have these monsters right here, 3/8, I believe they're 9.5, up from the bottom, through the pipe spacer, line up your tube here, through the guide plate, right through your block, like so. Once you get a nut on there, you'll be able to let go of that longer bolt. Also, I want to make note of this right here. This yellow label that's on here. It's important outside of the lift. Even me here at the factory didn't pay attention to that. That needs to be pointing towards the outside of the lift. It's imperative that that happens. So make sure. I'm kind of glad I put it together wrong to begin with, is to show you what can happen. What'll happen with that is it makes the cables so they don't line up with the pulleys up top. So you can get premature cable wear and pulley wear. Next, take your other long 3/8 bolt here. Put it through here, right up through the bottom, like so. Get those finger tight. These other 3/8 bolts right here are going to go down through the top, like so. These shorties right here that are left, just like the other side, you're going to see what will happen is they go here at the base of this cradle tube, connecting it to the I-beam. There's going to be 2 of those here at the bottom. And then lastly, with your last 2 nuts, you're going to put them on these 2 bolts here. So now you have your lifting blocks attached to the carriage, ready to take off. Now, when hooking up the beam cables, it's a good practice. There are 2 holes you're going to see down in the steel corner plates that we put on earlier on in the video. You want to make sure that you're going down into the hole that's directly below the I-beam where it's coming out of. So you're going to take your cable, you're going to go through that hole like so, pull the cable through, put your brass nut on. Just like so. Now, when you tighten this up, you want to take this nut, tighten it all the way up, use up all the threads. All your adjustment's going to be in the top side adjustment. Once you have it like that, I jumped ahead and I already did the front corner like this here, and the front corner on the dock side like it over there. Next, you're going to take the other end of this cable here. You're going to find a 5/8 stainless washer, 5/8 brass nylock. Going to take your beam cable. You're going to need a ladder for this one. Again, this is a high lift. Get up on your ladder. You're going to see exactly where this hooks up at up top. Pull your cable all the way up. Down through the bottom of this block here. Washer first. Put your nut on there. And again, all your adjustment is going to be in this adjustment here. What we have there, we're going to go and do to the front side, and then we'll show you what this hoist is going to be like operational. All right, hey guys, just wrapping up the last step of building the 6000 high lift hydraulic. Once you set the tray up here, this is what it's going to look like. I've already went ahead and set the battery up here as well. Just make sure you undo this strap before you put the battery up here. Plug that in. Cinch it down good and tight. The next step is you're going to find this bag. It's going to be sitting where the battery was, like so. There's going to be a couple of 1/2-inch bolts in here. That's how you're going to mount this tray to keep it from falling off. This is what they're going to look like here. Just open those up here. There's going to be a hole right out in plain sight, right under the controller there. There's also one on the other end. It's at the end. A couple of angles here on the back side. Just put the nuts on the bottom. You can go ahead and tighten these up as soon as you get them in. Most importantly, you want to get these bolts in to anchor the tray. That way you don't have to worry about it falling off when you're on there. One of the very, very important steps before you go much further, you have the red cap here and the vent cap here. These do need to be flip-flopped. There is a warning sticker on there that says to do so. So you take the vent cap out. This is kind of like a storage port here on the side of it. You can put the plug for shipping back in the side there, like so. Put the vent cap in, just get a little snug. You don't really have to overdo it. Once that's done, you can move on to hooking up the battery. Take your positive wire first, put it on the positive terminal. Don't drop your nut in a tight spot where you can't reach it. Always double, triple check where you're putting your terminals at. Make sure red is going to positive, black is going to negative. Very important. After that, you can grab your negative terminal. Stick that on, just get them stunched down nice and tight. Once that's done, all that we have left to do up here is going to be the hydraulic lines. You'll see these hoses. They're going to be plumbed to the tank. You're going to have them like, they're going to look like this. You're just going to pull these off. Again, the tank, the reservoir here is full of fluid, ready to go. You don't have to worry about that. Pop the shipping caps off. You'll see the ports right here where these plug into, right here in the top of the winch tube. Put that in, there's quick connects. Flip those on. You're all set there, so you get your lines, your plugs, your battery hooked up. The last thing you can do, really don't have to do this for the video, but in this bag you're going to have your wireless fobs and your pendant, okay? Where that pendant's going to go here, there is a plug. It's coming off the bottom of the controller here. Right here, it's going to look like this little gray plug. That's where your pendant's going to plug into. There's a hole right here in this corner. You can run out of the bottom and then up and hang it from your canopy top. Wherever you choose is going to fit the best for you. Get these wires tucked back in here. Alright, once you have those tucked in, you're going to see your controller come on. You just have your up and down arrow here. Once that's done, you're just going to confirm you have power there. These two ports that you have on the bottom, the wires that come off, there's these white tags on them. One's for your solar panel. Solar panel is not going to go to the battery. It's going to hook directly to this port right here. Charge regulator is built into the charge controller, so you don't need to worry about having one to the battery. This other port lead here on here is for the LED lights. If you choose to have one on your canopy top, that's where that will plug in. After this, all you do once that's done is you put your fiberglass lid on, clamp it down, and we'll get down and show you how this operates. All right, the hoist is 100% assembled outside of obviously the bunks and the guidons. Just wanted to show you guys an operational video. With your wireless remote, you know, when you're all done, you always want to try it out first, make sure everything's good before you put it in the water. So right now we'll go up. travel right there. Coming down. You will see more speed when the carriage is empty with it going up than going down, but once you get your boat on it, it will be consistent to the same speed with that extra weight. That being said, that is 100% built. If for any reason there's any small adjustments you need to do from side to side, if your carriage is higher or lower on this side over here, meaning the dock side, your adjustments is up there in that corner and that corner. You tighten it or loosen it, it'll lift or lower these corners. That's a wrap. Once again, this is 6,000 vertical high lift, 84 inches of travel. Thanks for watching.